Hello, I'm Alma Schneider. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the proud mother of 4 children, one of whom has Prader-Willi syndrome.
And I am Iris Miller. I'm a certified rehabilitation counselor and the proud mother of 2 children, one of whom has quadriplegic cerebral palsy and is nonverbal.
In this podcast, we discuss the uncensored truth about raising children with disabilities.
Prepare to laugh, cry, and hopefully learn something new.
This is 2 Moms, No Fluff.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of 2 Moms, No Fluff, the podcast in which we discuss the uncensored truth about raising children with disabilities. Today, I want to mention that our podcast is sponsored by 1 in 6 Support, our nonprofit supporting families of children with disabilities, their communities and organizations. So thank you. And I have a very special guest here with me today. This is Roberta Bernstein. And Roberta, first of all, thank you for taking the time to be here today. And I would love to let you introduce yourself so our audience would get to know you and why you're here.
Great. I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for asking me. This is my first podcast. I am a longtime editor and writer. I've been a journalist for decades, and I've also been an advocate for a family member who has intellectual and developmental disabilities. I started when she was in about 4th grade, and she's now 33. And I've seen her through everything, the Medicaid waiver and her IEPs and housing. And I wanted to take my experience as a journalist and what I've learned about curating news and news stories and my advocacy work and put it together. I was trying to figure out how can I pull this together and create something else. So that I launched The Boost about, I think, in January 2023. And it started out as a developmental disability news site with a focus on New York State. And I had resource lists and I had events that were happening every week, in addition to some original reporting, as well as a weekly news roundup. And I put everything into a Friday newsletter. And what I found well over a year later was that I was really only getting a lot of interest in the news in the news stories. So I decided to pivot, and I now have a weekly newsletter that is a curated news roundup that covers fiscal policy and health issues and state initiatives and special education. And it's a one-stop shop for developmental disability news that's come out over the week.
Yes, and this has been such a great resource that I'm so first happy that you had the initiative and the idea to start something like that. And I think it's really important for everyone in our community that wants to stay on top of what's going on in the United States in general about disabilities and how we can better advocate for the people we love, that registering and becoming a subscribers is a gift, because what you do is literally screen out the articles that we should all be aware of. So can you tell us a little bit about how you do that and how you decide which stories make it into the Boost?
Sure. So I subscribe to at least 45 newsletters that I get in my inbox every day to make sure that I'm really seeing everything I can see. Plus, I do a lot of research on my own. I mean, I'm online a lot. I read a lot. And in doing some research on if this would be helpful to organizations and people who work in special ed and people who are interested in getting the latest news, I didn't find one place that gave you that roundup. There are places that do sections of that. There's websites that will give you original reported news stories. They'll have about 3 a week. There's the Self-Direction Center has a really good newsletter that comes out on Fridays with self-direction news. But I didn't find anything that brought everything together. So I forgot the question. How do
you choose the stories?
How am I doing this? Okay.
It's all good. It's interesting regardless.
So I do focus part of it on the biggest news that's happening that week. So over the last few weeks, that has been SNAP, and it has been special ed as the Trump administration goes about dismantling both, basically. So I do decide I have a spotlight that I start the newsletter with, and I'll have a little bit more context there. And last week I had it on Snap and what that meant. And it's really hard to keep on top of the court order and how much of it they're paying attention to and what. So I'm hoping that that's a help is to look up Snap News, find out stuff that I try to get around it in a holistic way. So I have I have a shutdown explainer that is in, oh my gosh, I forget what it's called. Plain, not what is that called when it's, I'm so sorry, this is terrible. Do you get to edit this? Hold on one
Yeah,
second.
that's okay. You can look it up, and while you do, I just wanted to say that Alma and
Plain language. I'm sorry, go ahead.
plain language. Okay, yeah. So I wanted to say that Alma and I have an episode in which we discuss the topic of the personal is political. And I think that for many, many parents that are at home entangled with caregiving for their child with a disability, it's almost a mystery how they can become like advocates, how can they become more involved. And I think you have the answer to the first kind of step in that direction, and that is to stay informed and knowledgeable and to be with both your eyes open to what happens kind of on a political frontier and in other states and other counties, because that really helps a family understand where they should put their weight down, because how it relates to their own personal child. So I wanted to thank you for doing that and collecting the information. But do you have kind of advice of your own for parents on how to use the knowledge that you share to advocate for their children?
Yeah, I mean, I have found I'm not in love with Facebook, but I have found that Facebook has been extremely helpful in finding like-minded individuals who have started groups in their community. And I would urge anyone, whatever state you're in, whatever community you're in, to look on Facebook and see if you can find communities that are advocacy communities, developmental disability advocacy communities, there's self-direction communities, there's employment opportunity communities, and they're local. And I have found a lot of information there. They'll tell you if there's some kind of rally going on at the state capitol that you can go to get involved in. They'll point you to petitions. I mean, this is hard work for a parent, right, who is already taking care of someone. That's a lot of work. So now you're telling them to, well, you should also be. And I know that that's difficult, but it is an important part is to make noise. And you can also go to your state just Google who is the head of the disability community of my state legislature, and that way you can see when they're having hearings and when they're sending out bulletins that have to do with a special interest that you have. There's really, I mean, that's one big way is to really join groups. And at least if you don't have time to advocate yourself, at least be able to read what kind of local advocacy is going on where you are. And the other way is to stay involved. I'm assuming that all parents or one parent will probably do attend the IEP meeting, do show up at school. And I would really encourage them to, take good notes and to see if there's resources out there to help them navigate anything that they're going through. So if they're navigating the IEP system, see if there's an advocacy organization who will let you bring a lawyer to that IEP meeting with you for free. I think it takes a little bit of research, but if you start building out that community, it becomes easier. It becomes easier over time.
Yeah. And what are your hopes in terms of the boost and how it will grow and the influence that it can have on our community?
I'm really hoping that I get the attention of national and local organizations nationwide, because I feel that with the community is in such crisis. It's always been a crisis, right? When is it not in crisis? But we're in real danger now with the economy and with the administration of going backwards. They're talking about institutionalization now, as a solution for mental health patients. Well, I can see that very easily sliding into the developmental disability community. So I feel like information is power. And I'm really hoping that this kind of one-stop shopping with all the news you might need to know for that week is really going to help empower people and keep them connected and keep them knowing what they need to know. It's something like there was an article this week that Arizona State, they have a Center for Reinventing Public Education, and they just released a data center that has through 1976, they have digital data of special education trends, for an organization that is trying to fight what the Trump administration is doing, or that's their interest. This is a really important resource for them that they might not know about otherwise. So I'm hoping that I can just keep feeding the monster and just keep sharing information that will help people.
Yes, and your work is definitely noticeable. I know at One in Six Support, we definitely noticed and are happy to have you here and share what you're doing. And I really do hope that many other parents would subscribe to the Boost, but also that maybe our community portal, the online portal that we have for families, would be a place that the conversation can continue about the important issues that come up in the Boost. I believe that knowledge is power always, and that people, even from their home, can make an influence by writing a letter to the editor, by signing a petition, by making a phone call to their local representative and sending in an email to express their opinion to our politicians. So again, keeping informed is important.
I do want to point out that there's some national organizations as well, probably including the ARC and some other organizations that have made advocating so easy. They write the letter for you. They tell you how to find your senator or your congressperson, and they just have you click a button. So they understand how busy parents are, and they understand how little time they have to deal with politicians and with legislation. So these organizations are making it really easy to advocate. So I suggest checking those out as well.
Yes, that's a great recommendation. Roberta, for other people that are not immediately affected by disability in their immediate families, and we have them now listening to this podcast, what do you want to say about their involvement and their influence on the disability community?
Well, I had someone tell me that someone who works for a big organization in New York State, and they sat down with a state senator, and they were talking about something that they wanted some change that they wanted to see. And the senator actually had the nerve to say to this person, well, that population doesn't vote, so why should I care?
Oh,
They said the quiet part out loud, as we're hearing more and more people do these days. And I think the more voices that lend support to the disability community, the more noise that's made, the more change will happen. I think our legislators need to learn that people care about people with disabilities. Almost everyone, whether you're directly involved or not, is somehow affected by someone. They either know someone who has a disability or policy changes that are being made. That money that's being not spent on disabilities is going to create some kind of crisis down the line that will affect everybody in different ways. So I also say just open up your hearts and understand that, we're trying to stop othering people and putting them into buckets. That everyone is important. The vulnerable populations are really they're being piled on right now more than ever. And we just need everybody's support.
Yes, and Roberta, that statement kind of infuriates me. I want to kind of counter that with some CDC statistics, because as we know, between the ages of 3 to 17, 1 in 6 children has a disability. This is why our organization is called 1 in 6 Support. And if you think about it, in the US, an average family has 1.93 children. So it means that every third household has a child with a disability.
Right.
In addition to that, over the age of 18, 1 in 4 Americans has a disability. So for politicians to ignore that voting group and their family and friends and neighbors is a horrible mistake. And we do have political power. And I also like to say that the disability is kind of a minority group, the largest minority group in the United States, that anyone can join at any given moment, because as long as car accidents still happen, as long as we age and lose our physical or cognitive ability, this is something that can happen to anyone. So anyone should be an ally to the disability community, and our politicians should really know better, because our votes and our voices really do matter. And I think you see too, right?
Absolutely. And my family member votes, and she cares deeply, who has disabilities. She cares deeply about the issues, and she gets to that voting booth, and she knows it matters. And not only that, there's a self-advocacy group, self-advocacy trend that's growing. There's more and more self-advocacy groups popping up all over the country for people with developmental disabilities as well as disabilities. And they're being taught to be political citizens and to have their voices heard. And they're out there and they're voting. And I think people don't really understand that. Our legislators don't really understand that.
Yeah, that is true. And here in Michigan, we have a good and growing group that's called SAM, Self Advocates of Michigan. And there are similar groups in all other states. And if you're not sure where and how to connect with that, you can always turn to your local DD Council, Developmental Disabilities Council, to get connected. But Roberta, before we end today, do you have any other message that you want to share about your work, about the Boost, or anything else for parents of children with disabilities?
Well, I feel like I should give the website, tell you where to sign up for it. It's called the Boost News, and that's all one word, the Boost, Boost news.com. And if you go to the website, which it has the news of the week on it every week, but it still has slightly that older iteration of the New York State stuff. If you go to the top, there's a newsletter link. And it could not be easier. You click the link and then you put in your email and you are set. You'll get that newsletter in your email, in your box. It's free, and I want to keep it free, and it comes out every Friday.
Amazing. Roberta, thank you so much for the work that you do and for keeping us all informed and knowledgeable. And I hope our paths would cross again. And thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And for all of our listeners, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for what you do for your children, for your families, and for our community as a whole. I'll see you next time.
For more information, please go to www.twomomsnofluff.com. Thank you.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe and give it a 5-star rating so more people can hear it. Thank you.